Hello and welcome back to our live.
Happy
And
Friday, everybody.
happy Friday and happy orgasm day. Oh, so actually, while we're giving people time to come on, nobody's on yet, but
Mhm.
um, one of the type of orgasms is a foodgasm. So today we're going to be talking about food and
I was
hopefully
just going to say that.
yeah, hopefully somebody will have a foodgasm after our show or during our show, even better. So while we're waiting
Love
for people to
it.
come on, I love your new hairdo. I love the cut. It's
Thank
looking
you. Thank you, Renee. I'm
good.
looking, I'm looking a lot like this tree behind me with it goes up now.
Right.
Yes, Renee. My mother is a stylist and, many years of doing our own hair. And I came back to California to spend time with her during this quarantine time. And she was like, girl, I need to cut that hair. You got to let me cut it. It's a mess. I was like, please cut my hair. So I'm so grateful for my mother's talent. I said, please just cut it all off. Cut it all off. I want to be free. I want to be light. So I'm having a lot of fun with my new hairdo. I'm inching my way to your state.
Oh, I
Renee.
can't wait. I can't wait to see you bald. It's gonna be beautiful.
I
You will
do
have to
dream
come
about
on
it.
and do the bald.
It'll happen. It'll happen. I'm hoping it'll
Yes.
happen. But yes, I feel great. I'm in the sunshine. I thought I'd be in the sun today for the show. And I know it's nighttime over there still. So
Mhm.
just rubbing it in.
Thank you. And it's colder. I got the long sleeves on. It's colder here.
Oh,
So
well,
Alex says your hair looks great.
oh, thank you, Alex. Yes, I put some cream in it, make it look a little more presentable for my virtual life. And
And thank
also
you,
to get
Alex, for
dressed.
coming back on. Oh, thank you, Alex, for coming back on and commenting. So as people are coming on, sorry, we're going to be talking about food today and maybe get a little bit into foodgasms. I don't know. But
Yes.
yeah, so comment if you've traveled and you've had food in Brazil. I'm sorry, so you were going to say, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just going to say that I'm excited and I'm dressed up to talk about food. For folks just joining, Renee and I really love food. We love to eat, we love to cook, we love to just be with the food, feel like we are one with the food.
Yes.
And, when every week we talk about, we meet beforehand and we're like, okay, so what do we want to share about ourselves with the world this week? What do we want to engage people in conversation with? And I was like, Renee, we've been meaning to talk about food. I think now is the moment, especially during quarantine. It's been a whole other experience to be home all the time and to really engage with that aspect of ourselves. Whether folks enjoy cooking or not, you kind of need to have that relationship more. And so I was like, I think now's the moment. She told me about Streetfood, the program on Netflix. It did a show on Salvador. I was like, okay, let's do it. So, and then it's orgasm day. So I'm like, foodgasm, hello.
Why not? Let's get our foodgasms on.
Let's get it on. Let's get
So
it on.
Alex, you're on. You remember when I cooked for you and the gang when we had a little party? So Alex was here in Rio, and he had a nice crib, a fat crib, right with the ocean view, and it was amazing. And we had a party. I got there early and just cooked away. We went grocery shopping. I made all kinds of stuff. I was having fun. I was in my element. In my element. So did you get
And
to
this
watch
was in
Street
Brazil?
Food? This was in Brazil, yeah. So did you
Oh,
get to
okay.
watch Street
Great.
Food? Anyone who's coming on, if you watch Street Food, let us know. So I was watching it and I loved it. And I was like, wait, why don't I know any of these people on here? Like Donna Susanna, have you been to her restaurant?
So Dona Susana, I have heard of her. She is from the community Gamboa de Cima, which is
Ah,
right, it's in the center of the city. It is, right on the water the way the show showed. And it's a Quilombola community, meaning that it was a community of fisher folks, small fisher folks who this is their livelihood, and this is where they were able to carve out a place to live, to survive, to build community. And so it's a really powerful community, and her story was so beautiful. It made me
so beautiful.
I mean, for folks who didn't watch it, we're like doing a PSA for Netflix right now. We should be getting millions of dollars, but we're not.
Right.
But
but like, just listening to her story, it was just amazing. Like she grew up stuttering, and then, and then being able to do something that she dreamed of. And I remember when they talked about the Italian guy who came and asked her to move to Italy and so she could make tons of money in Italy cooking. And she was like, no, this is my Bahia. I love it here. I'm not going anywhere. And you really find that. You really find the people here, like they love their Bahia. No matter what's going on, what challenges, what difficulties, it's like their heart and soul is here. And so that it was a really beautiful story.
And I think it has a lot to do with the food. The fact that the food has so much, it says so much about place and about ancestry and about memory and about coming together. The documentary mentioned it, and I'm gonna like use that as kind of a reference, but I think it's also our own, personal experiences. It touched on the fact that the food in Bahia is so related to the Afro religious aspect, right? The candomblé, that the food has a direct relationship to the different orishas, which are deities that take care of people in different ways. There was a scene where Dona Susana, she's like, when I don't know what to do, I pray to Iemanjá for her to help me get through these difficult times. And so
and Iemanjá is the goddess of the ocean, for those who don't know.
So each orisha has their relationships to different foods. For people who have a head that is guided by Iemanjá, depending on your composition and everything, you shouldn't eat fish because she's the mother of the ocean, and so those are her children. But Salvador is a coastal city, so I think there's different seafoods. There's shrimp. There's all kinds of fish. There is manta ray for the vegetarians and vegans out there. There is also options that are vegetarian more and more.
Right. And I think that's what made me fall in love with Salvador, because honestly, like, oh my God, that dende oil, the dende oil is palm oil.
Yes.
And when I first got there, like literally, I wasn't planning on living in Salvador for 4 years. So living in Brazil this last 9 years.
Right.
But when I got there, and I talk about this all the time, how I love the food. Like it really made me feel like I was connected to Africa, and my family being from Haiti, a lot of the food that we cook, I found that it was very similar, so that's the African roots, right? And I just love the acarajé. I love the moqueca, and all of these have the dende oil, just that connection. And some people, when they go and they eat the dende oil, the palm oil, the heavy stuff, they get sick or nauseous, or it's just heavy. But immediately with me, I ate it and I was like, this is great. Like I felt good, and I knew this is home for me. This is home.
Right. No, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, Renee, that how we react to different foods wherever we are, wherever we go in the world, or we end up living for a while. Sometimes it's not always like our stomachs are open and accepting of whatever we put in it. So,
right.
I think when I was thinking, we were thinking about the show, I'm like, let's do a show where we also talk about folks about how they can engage, on the cultural level, on the culinary level, without having those fears, right? And those, like, how do you make space? How do you prepare your stomach to eat food that it may not be used to, that might be harsh, that, how do you prepare your palate? Kind of what are those things that you did to prepare yourself?
Girl, I ain't gonna lie, I did nothing to prepare myself. Let me tell you. So I think for me, but that's a great question, because that is important, because there's a lot of people who are more sensitive than others. And I think for me, because I've traveled so much, and I've always traveled a lot, but I remember the first time I went to India, And when I was in India, I got a lot of food that was really spicy, really spicy. And it was like, oh my God, like I'm shitting pepper, like my shit was burning and my piss was burning. Like, so I really wish I would have known how to like prepare myself for that.
Yeah.
So because nobody wants their shit burning. But
Mhm.
like, I think that it's important to know where you're going and see what the food is and how it is. And if you're sensitive and you're not used to eating these different types of seasonings and things like that, start off slowly. Like, don't do like I did and just immerse yourself in, like, I always immerse myself in local places.
Mhm.
But if you tend to go to where more of the touristy areas are at first, the food is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be that strong cultural type. And then you kind of get the feel, get it, and then you can start making your way, in my opinion, to like the local areas. And then even when you go to the local areas, if you speak the language or you don't, you can ask them not so mild, not so spicy. Like when I was in Thailand is also very spicy. And I learned from my India experience, right? When I was there 2 years ago, and I went to the restaurant because again, I go straight to the locals. And I was like, please don't make this too spicy. And it was still very spicy, but not so spicy like they generally do,
So go
So
mild
go
initially.
mild
Yeah.
initially, or try something at first that you really like. You look like, okay, I've had this that looks like something I can, because sometimes, you just kind of can tell when you're looking how something is going to taste. At least I can. I don't know. Can you? Like, you can tell, like you can look at something and be like, that's not gonna taste good. Like I know that's not gonna taste good. Or that looks good.
I am definitely from the school of not judging a book by its cover. You know,
Oh,
I
yeah, no, but it's not. For me, it's not, because it's like something when you look,
Mhm,
it's but that's true. I agree with what you're saying.
mhm,
But for me, I don't know if it's not necessarily judging. And I agree with that, because sometimes you might see something that might look like it's going to be nasty and it tastes really
mhm,
good. But 9 times out of 10, when I look at something, I'm like, oh, that's not going to be good.
mhm,
And then I try it and it's like, oh, it doesn't look good. But I might see that same exact dish someplace else, and I'm like, oh, that looks like it's going to be good. So
mhm,
it's not that I'm judging because I don't know what it
mhm.
is, but it's more of how it looks. Like you can tell what flavors are in there, and just some things just look like vomit, and you're like, I'm not going to eat that. I mean, so I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between looking and telling whether you might like it or not, or saying, I don't know what that is, I'm not going to try it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So everything you just said made me in my brain think of like tips we can share with people that I think relate to what you're saying. So the first one around what to do if you're afraid of getting sick. So one of the things I really like to do, because I love actually, Renee, I was going to be an ethnobotanist. I was in a moment of like studying plants, studying medicinal plants. I was, in the jungles in Guatemala, like that was where I was going. But then I went a different direction. But what that experience brought to me was to always, wherever you go, ask about what people drink if they don't feel good. What are the local medicinal? And you'll learn, people take this herb all the time for stomach aches or for cramps or for nausea. So in Salvador, Bahia, for example, boldo is a type of plant that everybody uses, very accessible. You can find it in loose form, you can find it in packaged form. It's something that's really great if your stomach doesn't feel good. So I think that's a really good way of like accessing local knowledge of how you can kind of deal with stomach issues, right? And
Yeah.
also like trying other ways, other herbs. And so that, boldo is one. I know that in Guatemala, where my family's from, folks drink a lot of mint tea is a way. And I'm thinking like in India, I don't know if ginger tea or other kinds of particular teas that are good for the stomach, or something
Yeah.
that you can always ask about first, and then
That's great.
and then go and look for it at local stores or local market, just so that you're prepared, right? So if you don't feel good, you're already ready with something that local folks have recommended is something that can help you feel better.
I like that. I like
To not rely on Tums and all the other,
Yeah, yeah. So when
those
I
kind
was
of
in
things.
Bali, they had something called Bali Belly,
Ooh,
and
what is
so I
that?
had got that. Well, because it's the Bali Belly, you get sick, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so it's so for the Bali Belly, I remember getting, and I never had to use it. Thank God. I actually I brought it here, and I have it here. But it was these herbal kind of like natural holistic type of pills
Mm-hmm.
that I got from an acupuncturist there,
Mm-hmm.
and luckily I hadn't had to use it, so that was good. But generally speaking, when you travel, you're going to get some type of something happen to your stomach. There's going to be some type of upset,
Mm-hmm.
So I really like what you said about checking out what the local people use, what herbs, what different things that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Me particularly, I don't like the Tums. I have when I first started traveling before I left the States, because I had an acupuncturist.
Mm-hmm.
I did get some herbal pills
Mm-hmm.
for upset stomach, for
Mm-hmm.
like if you get, what do you call that thing, a bacteria in your stomach? What's that thing that's live in your stomach? What do you call that when you eat?
Bacterial infection, yeast overgrowth,
No, no.
leaky gut. I'm like gonna name everything.
Well, sometimes when you eat food or you get food poisoning or you eat something and because their hands weren't clean, you get
Coli.
vermes in
Oh,
Portuguese.
that's parasites.
Parasite, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, so I traveled with me, I
Mm-hmm.
brought with me things for parasite
Mm-hmm.
and these different things like that. And so that's something that someone can do as well. If
Mm-hmm.
you have a naturopathic doctor, or you have
Mm-hmm.
something, it's
Mm-hmm.
always good to travel with those type
Mm-hmm.
of things,
And that's especially true if you plan on eating out a lot, right? Because I think
Mhm.
when you go somewhere and you plan on actually cooking, it's different because you can kind of, you know, take the precautions to clean your food, you know, whatever you're going to prepare with. And I think it's more when you eat out that it's kind of like you know, it's like, well, I don't know if it's okay. I am somebody particularly, you know, I eat a lot of street food historically,
Yeah,
and I
me too.
am okay most of the time, if not all of the time.
Yeah, I remember I had a friend, Claire. You remember Claire from
Yeah.
France? She would always be like, "You're gonna get sick, Renee. Why are you eating it?" I would eat because I love the street food.
Mhm.
In Salvador, I haven't found it so much here in Rio,
Mhm.
but Salvador, they have the espetos, the kebabs, the
Yep.
beef kebabs. They
Mhm.
have them here in Rio, but like Salvador, I would see them all the time. Like it
Mhm.
was just more easy to find.
Mhm.
And the way they cooked the beef on the kebabs, it was just so good. And then they could wrap it in like the flour, the flour that they
Harina.
cook.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then
Hot sauce.
and the hot sauce. Oh my God, it was so good. I would eat that all the time, all the
Yeah, that's
time.
a good cheap, like I need a snack on the street
Yes. And
situation.
the cheese at the beach, the queijo coalho. Oh my God. Yo, listen, if you are coming to Brazil,
No,
Salvador, they have it in
Salvador.
Rio too, but
But
Salvador,
Salvador is where it's at.
Salvador. They have the cheese that they grill right there. The guys have the little barbecue kind of grill, but it's
Mhm.
very small with the
Mhm.
coals, and they cook the cheese right there. It's a special type of cheese. I don't even know how you say
It's
it in
called
English, but
coalho. Yeah, I
coalho.
don't know what it's called.
Yeah,
It's like
and then they have put oregano and
molasses
molasses
and
and red pepper
red
flakes.
pepper flakes.
Man, I would have never thought of that combination. Oh, look, y'all, look.
The food
Natural
gasm started.
orgasm,
The
babe.
food
About to have
gasm
the food
started.
gasm just thinking of this.
Yes, Renee. So I love that you brought up the cheese because that brought me to another tip point around how to know what you should eat or what you can't eat, or, you know, how to engage with what is presented to you. So when you were talking about what something looks like, I think that's one of 5 options, right? I think there's how something looks, but there's also how something smells. So I don't know about you,
Mhm.
but for the cheese, I smell it way before I see it. I smell it.
Right.
I'm like,
Oh,
it's
you
cheese
do.
time. Where is it? Where is
Right.
it? So there's the smell, right? There's what something looks like. There's the texture. There's the colors, right? And I think there's all those things. The thing about food is it asks your body to engage all the senses in order to
Mhm.
really listen to your intuition. Like, is this something
Yes.
that on all these senses, you know, is making sense right now? Or is one of my senses kind of like saying, well, either go light or see if there's a different option. So I think
and that is exactly why I'm gonna let you finish. But so sorry, but
No,
that is
okay.
exactly why you can have fruitgasms, because it's connecting to your senses.
Yes, yes,
I had to throw that in
yes,
there since I'm a tantra
yes.
therapist
No,
and
it's
sex therapist.
totally, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. We experience the pleasure, and it's just like sex. If it's a bad sex experience, we're gonna feel that as well.
Right, right. And just like with food, sometimes the sex experience is going to be bad because he's coming in and he's trying, and you're like, oh, it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be good. And then you do it anyway. Then you're like disappointed. It's like, damn,
Yeah,
So same thing with the food. I'm like looking
yeah,
at that. I'm like, I'm not going to like it. But I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And
yeah,
like, damn, why did I try
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah.
So,
So yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's also something around asking folks about what is the time that certain foods are eaten. So I think there's also
mhm,
knowledge too, like, palm oil generally, late night is not something, if you're not used to it, it's not a good idea.
right.
People will tell you, oh, you eat it earlier, if you're not used to it. I think there's all kinds of different fruits that are good for the morning, not necessarily there, passion
Mhm,
fruit is great at night because it actually helps you sleep. So it's also great to also ask questions about the foods and what their uses are, because then you can kind of start understanding, the time for these foods. I think
mhm,
what's so great about food is that they ask us to engage with, if we're open to it, to engage with it in a way that's um, creative and also like very cerebral, intellectual. Like
mhm,
food is really smart.
Yes.
So if we come at food sort of arrogant or ignorant, I think that that energy also kind of bounces back at
Mhm.
us.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
food is medicine. So I love what you're
exactly,
saying.
exactly.
Food is medicine. And so, if you respect the food, if you connect to the food, and that's one of the things that I liked about when I was in India, when you eat with your hands, because
Mhm,
again, you're connecting to all your senses. So when
mhm,
you're picking up the food with your hands and you're putting it in your mouth,
mhm,
not only are you just eating it, but when you touch it, it's already sending those signals to your brain through your hands as to
mhm,
how it tastes, what it has for you. And, in addition to that, with it being medicine, like garlic,
mhm.
garlic is an anti-inflammatory, ginger is
Yes,
also anti-inflammatory,
yes,
antibacterial,
yes,
garlic is antibacterial. So
yes.
knowing these things, okay, how do I drink this? How do I use this for when something is going on, when I'm sick, when I'm not feeling well? Like you were also saying earlier. So those, food really is medicine. And I
Mhm,
like what you said, that when you respect it, when you're not coming ignorant at it and you're just eating, eating, eating without any consciousness, you can still enjoy it. But when you're eating more consciously and you're connecting to the properties, then it's different when it enters into your body. It
mhm,
it can enter and be more healing,
mhm.
so that's really important.
Yes,
So I
yes.
wanted to I wanted to talk about as well, like there's just so many things that we could talk about when it comes to eating. So um
We could reminisce about our food parties.
I know, I know, I know. We gotta get Sechi on. We gotta get Sechi on and then have him come on because he could cook. He can cook. So but yeah, like what's been a challenge? Like when I travel, I get
Mhm,
these cravings. I
mhm,
get these cravings being here, and I know I've had to make things from scratch.
mhm.
Like, what about for you? Like, I know like pancake mix you can't find here, cornbread. There's so many things when you travel. So what do you do about that to help you like um, fulfill a craving? And you're like,
Mhm.
I'm in Brazil and they don't have pancakes here.
Mhm.
What are some of the things
Or
you know?
and vice versa, because now that I come back to California, I came back a month ago. There's things that I can't find here that I grew to make part of my lifestyle there.
Yes.
So I think there's something to be said about um, adaptation. I think when I arrived to Brazil, I was so ready to just engage um, with everything it had to offer, especially Salvador,
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, okay, if this is what I'm going to eat, it's great. There's so much fruit. Palm oil doesn't make me sick. It makes me feel great. And, my senses are just so stimulated. It's all good. But, you know, there came a moment where I was like, okay, there's no tortillas. So you know, we're from Guatemala. Like, we eat tortillas morning, noon, and night as a spoon. Like, that's
Right.
that's our, you know, everything. So
Staple.
yes. So there came a moment where I was like, okay, there's no tortillas. And like, I had a little bit of a crisis at some moments. Like, okay, this is something, like, what does it mean to give it up because of where you are and that you can't find, you know, the flour? You know, I tried with different kinds of flours that they have there and it didn't work. So, you know, when I would come back to the States, I would bring flour with me. I would bring tortillas with me. I would, you know, try to make it
remember.
last, right? I would be like, hey, I'm having a, you know, enchilada party, pupusas, you name it. I was just like, this is part of me that I didn't want to lose. So there was also this part of me that was really connected to this food and this identity. But I think as time went on, I learned to kind of like keep the memory alive, right? But not necessarily make it mean that, you know, there was, you know, that I had to sort of insist on it. And it was more like, how can I, you know, I think that was one of the moments where I shifted when I was in Brazil. I think another moment was becoming pescatarian. I'm moving towards vegetarian. But right now I'm just eating fish, you know, once every couple weeks, but making that shift as well in a city that is also very meat heavy, focused in its culinary tradition, was also a shift that, you know, so I think we also, like, through our food, it is a place to sort of talk about our identity and who we are in that moment. So I think that's I don't know if I answered your question. I just kind of talked about tortillas.
Yeah, not really, but I'll answer it. I'll answer my own question. So, like, for me, but it was a great answer. I love what you said. But for me, like, you know, there's times that, you know, the same way, I've lived in Brazil 10 years. And so I love the food here. I embrace the culture and I connect to it. But there's times that I just get, you know, I miss the food from back at home, you know? And so for me, I found that it's a way for me to connect and not, you know, when I'm homesick. And I realize when I'm homesick, when I'm like, okay, I need pancakes. I can't pancakes. So one of the things that I thought that was great was I learned how to make pancakes from scratch. And, you know, so I just bought the flour. I looked up online how to make pancakes from scratch. And when I made it, it came out just as good, but it didn't have all those preservatives and all of those different things in there. So same thing, like cornbread. I love cornbread. So I learned how to make cornbread from scratch. You know, I buy the corn and I put in the different things. Oh my God, I'm so excited. We just made mayonnaise from scratch, ketchup from scratch. Yes, and I've made like tomato sauce from scratch. And one of the things that I've learned in making these different things from these cravings that I have to be connected to the States again after, you know, a certain amount of time, that we can actually make things from scratch. And it's a lot healthier because it doesn't have all of the preservatives and chemicals and all of the different things that these industrialized food have. And so when I made the mayonnaise is really simple, eggs and oil, and it makes a lot. And I was like, and it tastes so good.
Better. You can make your own flavored mayonnaise. I know I learned that last year as well. I was like,
I put some different herbs in it.
Not gonna buy mayonnaise ever again.
No, so like literally, I don't buy mayonnaise. I don't buy the store-bought like tomato sauce. If I'm making lasagna or something, I'm making fresh tomato sauce. Ketchup. So that was my question. So, you know, but I loved your answer. It was great.
Yeah. No, I think there's
both sides are important. Yeah, both sides are important.
Totally. Like, I think that what I was trying to get at with the tortilla thing was that, you know, okay, there was a moment where none of the flour is available, you know, make it possible. So I'm going to let it go. It's still inside me. It's still a part of me. And there's still things in Salvador that I can find that help me connect to my culinary heritage. You know, black beans is like up and down the Caribbean and Latin America. So how many different ways? And that's been actually, I'm like, the black beans is like the rallying flag of our heritage. Just like
Yes,
how
yes.
many ways does each culture make black beans? So I'm from Guatemala. We make it a certain way, and I've been having fun sharing it, with my companion, with people. I'm like, this is how we eat black beans, and they're like, this is crazy because they eat black beans with a ton of meat, and I'm like,
Right.
that is crazy. But
Yeah.
I'm open. Let's share our black bean love.
And I
And
just made black bean burgers
there you go.
last Saturday.
And I remember when I lived with Anne Marie, and you also live with Anne Marie, and shout out to Anne Marie. She's a wonderful
Yes.
friend from
London or England.
and she made that with cinnamon. Her family's from Jamaica, so she's like, we put cinnamon, and I was like, that is insane. So what
Yeah.
are the opportunities as well to kind of
Mhm.
expand what you know of an ingredient that's connected
Yeah.
to other cultural identities? And
Mhm.
that always for me is exciting. Like plantains, is another one.
Yes.
You can make
And they
them
have that
green,
here. Yes.
fry them. You can, and
Sweet.
that's, I'm like, I want to do a show just on plantains.
That would be good. I love plantains.
So all those
Yeah.
things, I'm like, I feel so connected, and it's funny because it has become an experience that makes me feel connected in like a regional sense, and
Mhm.
connecting, with Latin America and the Caribbean in this broader way through the food, right? I think
Mhm.
that being in Brazil has been part of that as well. Like, where are
Yeah.
we? Where are there bridges, and
Mhm.
where are we sort of different, and where are we totally different, and kind of just exploring who we are through our food.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And I think that you learn and you grow so much from this experience when you live outside of your home country for some time,
Mhm,
because you go through that. You go through different emotions.
mhm,
And
mhm,
there's sometimes when it's like, okay, let me explore, let me connect and learn and eat different things and
mhm,
experiment with the different ways. And
mhm.
then there's just sometimes where none of that will just help you feel better. And
Yeah,
it's like, I need this. I
yeah.
need this one thing. And so you make it, Same thing with peanut butter. You can make peanut butter. It doesn't taste as
Yes,
good as the Skippy. I'm not gonna lie, or the Jiffy, but it does taste good.
yeah. Or
Um,
peanut sauce. I was like, I
or
really
peanut,
want a peanut sauce. So I made a Brazilian version of peanut sauce because there isn't, ingredients that are native to Thailand or Vietnam that make this peanut sauce. But I'm like, what's
right?
similar to tamarind paste that I can, so you kind of have to be inventive as
Yeah.
well.
And I like that, like being inventive, you learn how to connect with this whole other side, your
Mhm,
right brain, the creativity.
mhm,
So, and that's what helped me grow a lot here. And that
mhm.
creativity, bonus people, bonus, creativity is your sexual energy. So, so you got that bonus. So, but yeah, like you learn to be creative. Like, how can I do something different with what I have? How
Mhm,
could I make something similar to what I'm used to?
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's about expansion. So I
mhm,
think that
mhm.
these are just important things. And it helps you to learn that I've been used to things a certain way, but okay, how can I expand and not necessarily be dependent on what I know and what I'm
Mhm,
used to,
mhm,
you know?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the biggest tip for when you move away or you're going to be in another place for a long time is you almost kind of have to engage with that side if you don't want to be upset by the fact that you're not getting all the foods you want or what you're used to. There has to be
Right.
this openness and this willingness to engage in an innovative sense, at least for me, because Salvador is a city that isn't necessarily known for being cosmopolitan or international or all these things.
Mhm.
It's very regional. And, I wasn't going to find what I was used to being from, the Bay Area, California, which is like a whole nother world in terms of food.
Mhm.
And so that was when, and then the quarantine hit and it was like, okay, now we're just like going to cook at home every day for all 3 meals. What is that going to mean? How much more inventive can we be? And so
Right.
I wanted to share with folks, with you, Renee, if possible, some photos. So I'm going to share my screen. See if I could share my screen with folks. And I'm going to, let me show this stuff here. I wanted to just kind of share with folks. So I am not in any way bragging, but I do think there's a part of us that needs to kind of engage with this aspect of being innovative with what's available, right? So I wanted to share with folks just some things, some food things that I've made. Just clicking over here. So I made, I'm trying to find. So for folks who eat moqueca and are vegetarian, for example, my companion taught me how to make moqueca de ovo. So it is egg moqueca. So again, these aren't the most exciting pictures necessarily, but I'll go ahead and share these with folks. So here's my moqueca de ovo. And Renee, are you seeing the moqueca de ovo here? Let me see here.
I am.
Okay, so it's everybody seeing it. There we go. So this is moqueca de ovo. So this is the delicious moqueca. So last year.
Oh wait, really quick.
Yes.
Melanie said she just watched the episode of the street food one, and it was wonderful. Made her want some moqueca. So
Yes.
here you go, Melanie.
There you
Egg
go.
moqueca, egg. So
yes. So this is the moqueca for with eggs. So for folks who are vegetarian, there's an egg option, which is actually a really traditional dish that people make when there isn't fish or shrimp available. And it is, I also, make my own fresh coconut milk now, which is something I learned being in Bahia. And you're like, I'm never buying canned coconut again.
Oh my God. Let me tell you, I am a coconut junkie. Like,
yes,
I love coconut.
yes.
And I remember the first time making my fresh coconut milk. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes.
With the brown, you got to buy the brown dried coconut. Oh
right.
My God.
So if folks, wherever
good.
you are, want to make your own coconut milk, you get the brown coconut, you crack it open. The best thing is to have them crack it open at the store because sometimes it can be rancid. So you want to make sure that it's fresh. Crack it open, throw out the water. Then you're going to put the opened coconut in the fridge for an hour or in the freezer for half an hour because that loosens the coconut from the shell. So then you carve it out much more easily, cut into pieces, put it in the blender, add a little of warm water. So the secret is to make it with warm water and not hot or cold. Blend it all together, strain it, and you get your coconut milk.
Oh, wow. You know what? I did not know to put it in the refrigerator first. I would always, like struggle to crack it open. Thank you. I learned something. So real quick, let me just say hi to the people that's coming on.
Great.
Hello. Thank you, Melanie, for your comment. Hello, NC Walker. Thank you for coming back again. I love the repeat, folks. Thank you for really just supporting us and coming on every time.
Yes.
All right. So
okay. So Renee, now I'm going to share a photo of something I created because I was like, we got to eat. I'm, quarantine. What else can I do? How else can I be creative? So let me share this dish, which I call a rainbow wrap. So this rainbow wrap is what you see there. So recently in Salvador, they started selling flour tortillas, but they call it Happy Days, which is fast 10. It's funny. Also the so I got a Happy Days and I was like, okay, we're going to make a wrap. This is the day that I made the peanut sauce. And I was like, I want a peanut sauce, but I want to just dress everything in it. So I made this rainbow wrap, which is carrots, purple cabbage, beets, red bell peppers, cilantro, and the garbanzo bean like patties. So mix that all together, added the peanut sauce on top, and had a wonderful, happy, rainbowy wrap. So this rainbow wrap is not necessarily here nor there culturally, but it's something that's available where I was. So again, thinking about like, well, where, I lived, for folks who saw the show, Cabasa, he's a wonderful neighbor. I live right next to his restaurant and I've known him for years. and his feijoada is fantastic, but it's full of meat. And so in that neighborhood, there's just two little markets, and you just got to see what you can get. And this was what I could get. And I was like, this is what we're going to do, and go to town because I made peanut sauce. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
I
those are
love
just a
that.
couple things, some ideas. And then for
And
cleaning
also
stuff,
for the
right?
vegetarian,
Mm-hmm.
also for the vegetarians with the moqueca,
Mm-hmm.
I love plantain moqueca.
Yes.
This is in Portuguese, banana de terra, but the plantain or even squash,
Mm-hmm.
abóbora, the pumpkin, comes really, really good in the moqueca. Oh my God, really,
Another
really
good
good.
one is breadfruit. Have you
I
tried
never had
breadfruit?
that.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's really good. So breadfruit is also good. Really kind of like look for what the hardy kind of fruits
Hmm.
or vegetables are that are kind of
Yeah.
meaty, are good options for that.
Yeah.
And one thing I was going to mention, Renee, around veggies. So I don't know how you clean your food. I know that depending on where you are in the world, it's important to think about, well, how
Yeah.
is it that you clean your food? For me, the best thing I've learned since being in Salvador, a lot of people do use bleach, like chlorine bleach, a few
Yeah. I
drops of
use
water.
bleach.
I don't really have issues with the bleach, just in terms of like the taste.
Mm,
And so what I've
yeah.
actually done is just vinegar. So I do a lot of vinegar and water.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
don't.
interesting. I'm sorry. I used to do vinegar and water, but right now the vinegar does not kill the viruses. It doesn't kill viruses.
Mhm.
And
Okay,
so with the COVID, to be sure that you're getting rid of the virus, it has to be bleach.
has to be
It's
bleach.
either bleach or soap and water. So
Soap and water.
yeah, so sometimes I use soap and water to
Yeah,
clean things
yeah,
or the bleach. But I used to be very big on the vinegar,
yeah,
but it doesn't kill the viruses,
yeah.
which makes sense why they use that here in Brazil, the bleach, because it kills more of the viruses and the bacterias,
Right.
So it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think pre-COVID it was vinegar, and now that it is COVID,
yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, I do wash with soap and water, everything now. So
yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, we
Um,
have this whole routine. Like, soon as things come, is like we get this big old bucket of water and
mhm.
chlorine, and we're putting it in, cleaning. Yeah, things that are easier to do with the soap and water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a good point. That's an important point that you bring up because sometimes people don't. I know a lot of people that don't even clean their food,
Hmm.
and so that really is important. I've been to a house where I see somebody bring out something to start cooking and not clean. I'm like, but I think the cleaning is also a Caribbean thing, um, Latin American thing. I think there's some Americans from what that I've met that they never clean like the fish, the chicken. I think that comes from different cultures or even sometimes vegetables.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if it has to do with the fact that our families are from the fact that the Caribbean and Latin America are, for the most part, tropical regions. Like, they're hot, so
mhm,
the propensity for parasites and bacteria
mhm,
and viruses is a little bit more. So
yeah,
there's this practice of cleaning that's
mhm,
pretty, yeah, we were the same. Like, we always had to wash all vegetables, but I think in the U.S. there's a different
yeah,
relationship in that
definitely
sense, because now the issue is like
the
pesticides,
virus.
So it's like cleaning the
Pesticides.
pesticides off, which is also an issue in Brazil, actually,
Hmm.
for folks who. And I wanted to get in with this with you, Renee, around, how are you, both in Rio and in Salvador, have been doing more the movement around folks who are cultivating food that is organic, that is
Hmm.
agroecological, that comes from small farmers. For folks who don't know, Brazil has one of the highest uses of pesticides in the world. There's about 7 pesticides that they use that are outlawed by like the International Council. So there's a huge issue with pesticides, and but there's all these people who are doing great things, um, not rely on that. So in Salvador, there's all these different groups who are selling foods,
Yeah.
Afro Brazilian families. This
Hmm.
is like a livelihood. The movement for the MST, the movement
Hmm.
of people, the landless peoples movement. They're cultivating food, and during COVID, they've been giving this food that's really healthy to different communities that haven't had food access. So there's also this other side to it. So I don't know how it is in Rio.
No, it's the same in Rio. We actually order our organic food and it's delivered. So what we do is every Wednesday we put in the order, and then Saturday he comes and he brings it. And so majority of the things that we eat here in Rio is organic. What I'm eating in my home is organic, vegetarian, and not industrialized food. Like I haven't bought frozen food in I don't know how long, like over 10 years now. And I have eaten frozen food just when I've gone back to the States and it's at my family's home and then it's quick and easy, you know? And you know, so interesting. You were talking earlier about when you now that you're back home, I noticed that when I go back home and I go to the grocery store, I feel like it's a foreign place to me. Like I'm like, wait, what do they have here? Where do I get this? Like it's completely different. And like I feel like, you know, because I'm so used to here, like I'm so used to going to the small markets, going to the local place to buy fruits as well, the organic place. So we do a lot of that. They have the co-ops here as well. So, or even the fair at the markets. So it's very rare that I'm going to a big grocery store. You know what I'm saying? And in the States, because of, you know, where I'm at, we're more than likely, you know, in my family, they're not so much into going to co-op or the organic and all of that stuff. So then I end up going to the traditional regular supermarket with them, you know? But like, and so I feel lost. Like here, I'm so used to going to the little local markets or, you know, having the organic foods delivered. And so it's just so different. It's such getting used to.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, I think another thing when you're talking about that in terms of getting used to, and I wanted to like advocate, you know, fresh whenever possible. You know, when I came back to California, and you know, I'm the one who's kind of has this different. I'm not eating meat, and you know, my sister, she came back from the grocery store really sweet. She's like, oh, I brought all these, you know, Beyond Meat, meatless this, meatless that, sausage, you know, patties, and all these different kinds of like packaged inventions of things that are vegetarian. And I was like, this is great. And but like because of what I had access to in Brazil, you know, there isn't all of that. And I think there's a culture of eating fresh. You know, you go in the morning to buy the food that you're going to make for lunch. You know, I was like, oh, great. I was almost like, I don't even know what to do with it. Like my thinking around food is like, okay, I got to go. What are they selling in the market today, vegetable wise? And that's what I'm going to use to make my food today. And so there's something really special about having this, being engaged with the freshness of something, right?
And you're also connecting to nature, right? Because when you're buying the fresh food, I notice there's things that's in season, not in season, you know, and so you're buying the vegetables, you're buying the fruits that's in season. So, you know, I can go and they don't have watermelons because it's not in season, or, you know, and so there's something about eating the fruits and vegetables that's in season that really connects you to nature. And again, like we are talking about earlier, you have a whole different relationship with food, you know, and like, you know, in the States, the veggie, you know, I made black bean burgers. I don't buy the black beans in a can. It's the, you know, it's the beans that's going to take 2-3 hours to cook. So like literally when I wanted to make the black bean burgers, I started cooking it that morning to start cooking the beans and then, you know, seasoning it and doing everything so it's fresh. And yeah, like you're saying, we go to the grocery store. I go to the grocery store maybe every 2 days. And I remember, you know, I'd buy cilantro, these different herbs, and, you know, they go bad after 2 days, 3 days. And I go to the States. I remember buying cilantro and it lasted in the refrigerator for like 2 weeks without going bad. And I was like, oh my God. So imagine how much preservatives and all kinds of things that's in there to make it last. And I didn't even want to eat it anymore. So it's like, you know, so you see that difference. Like, buying the fresh organic foods, and it doesn't last long. You got to cook it every day, quickly to not go
Mhm.
bad. So like
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
I buy these herbs. I buy the cilantro, the parsley, spring onions, and I cut them up and I freeze them. So I put them in the freezer because they're
Mhm.
not going to last that long.
Yeah.
So I found ways
Right.
to preserve them, and then I'll
Mhm.
cook and then I'll take them out and I'll put it in, and it's
Mhm.
it's really good. It tastes really good. So that's
Yeah.
what I started doing,
That's what my mama does, and it saves you in moments where you're like, I don't have anything, but oh yeah, I have all these frozen things, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think too, when we're thinking about when you go to a new place, there's nothing like going to the markets of that place to understand, okay, what is it that people eat here? What is it that I will potentially eat somewhere if I eat out? And what are the things, what can I learn about people through all these things, through all these different foods? Like, the heritage of palm oil in Brazil is a direct link to West Africa, and the fact that palm oil is so central to daily meals, but also religious, the religious connection. Palm oil has a connection to Orisha. And so you start to also learn history as well. And I think that's something that's really special when you think about how food tells you about a place and how you also relate to that. So I'm not like the best feijoada maker at all, especially because we don't eat meat. So I'm like, okay, we make
Right.
vegetarian ones. But I think also seeing like where people are being innovative has been really great in
Oh my
Salvador.
God. Listen.
So yes,
Oh my God. No, finish. I'm so sorry. I got so excited. I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
what was your thought? What was your thought? So I was just going to say that for folks in Salvador, there's a lot of great restaurants that are, really bringing their cultural heritage to the forefront with their food, but also being innovative. So Hango Vegan, which is in the Pelourinho. It's a
Yeah.
cooperative restaurant run by a few friends. Carol Reyes, she's wonderful, and other folks. They do, Monday through Saturday, fantastic vegetarian meals, fresh, lunchtime and evening pizza things. There
Oh, wait,
is.
real quick. Let me add this before you go into all the list. Because I
Mhm,
was going to say, when you talked about the feijoada being vegetarian, oh
mhm,
my God. Oh my God. So I made a feijoada
uh-huh,
that was vegetarian, and
mhm.
it came out tasting so good. We used beets. So the beetroot kind of actually looked like meat, but it wasn't.
Wow.
And it actually gave it a good flavor. So I made that, the beans with the beetroot,
Mhm,
pumpkin put in
mhm.
there, and the plantain. And it actually came out, it was really good, a good, nice mixture. And getting in the onions and the garlic and all of that, it really does give it a good flavor.
I will
So
try the beets.
yeah. So while you're, just real quick, I want to let people know if you have any questions about the food, the culture in Brazil or abroad, any questions that you might have about what are some precautions, what should you take, anything, feel free to write these questions so that we could respond to them. Let us know.
Mhm.
And yeah, we like this when this is interactive and
Yeah.
you're asking us questions. So
Yeah,
continue. Mhm.
but that sounds delicious. I want to go make it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I was just going to talk about some of the restaurants in Salvador. So there's Hango Vegan, which is, cooperative folks. There's Malembi, which is run by queer Black women. It's a beautiful space, bar restaurant. They're doing
Oh,
takeout.
I do have to say,
Mhm.
I love the ambiance there, and I loved the drinks. The drinks were off the chain, but the food sucked. I'm
You
sorry.
didn't like the food?
I
What
did
did
not
you
like the
order?
food.
What did you order?
I went with a few people, and none of us liked the food. And
Wow,
then
I
I was
love the
like,
food.
really? Maybe it was a bad day. And I was like, I went with Kirachiana and another lady. And you know Kirachiana, we're both foodies.
Huh.
We're both foodies, and we did not like it. We were like, but the drinks were off the chain. So we were like, okay, we're gonna go back and just have drinks. But I love supporting, I love supporting these businesses, and so that's why I went there. The primary reason Kirichiana and I went there was because we were planning the Afropunk festival in November. We know Afropunk was going to be going to Salvador in November. So we went there and we were checking out. We wanted to check specifically Black-owned restaurants so that we could support. Didn't like the food. But it might have been that day. So.
Or it might have been what you ordered, like, or what I ordered that happened to be good.
We had different plates. There was another lady there. Yeah, we had 3 different plates and none of it. It was all sorry mosquitoes. So.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Renee.
Sorry. Maybe I'll go back again. Okay, sorry, Malembe. You know, I don't want to give you a bad rap. I'll go back again. But I'm sharing my experience. Because first and foremost, I'm not getting paid to give good reviews. So anyway, I'm sharing my truth, my experience. And has anyone, if anybody's been to Salvador and you've been to any of these restaurants, let us know what you thought. Love to hear that.
Well, I think something that to remember, like in the show, a lot of what's good is kind of really local, neighborly things. So like Donna Susana, you know, she didn't even have a sign, but it's fantastic. So I know that in my neighborhood, for example, Cabasa's right next door. He does make a really good feijoada. You know, there's a couple other folks that I know where to go. But you start to sort of go after, you know, start to ask people, where can I find the best muqueca? Where can I find the best acarajé in the city? And everyone has their point. And if you're really into like exploring, that can just be, you know, a day of exploring in and of itself. It's like try where all these people are saying. And, you know, I have my spots where I get my favorite acarajé. I don't go anywhere else.
Yes.
Certain corners of the city. But, you know, as given what's going on right now, you know, it's not possible to have that. But there are.
And acai. Oh my God. So acai in the States, I think a lot of people call it the acai berry or acai, however you pronounce it in the States. I don't know. But the correct pronunciation is acai. At least in Portuguese, it comes from Brazil. And it's so healthy. And in the States, it's so expensive to get that. Like a little cup of acai, the drink, the smoothie, it's like $15.
Yeah.
And you can get it here for five reais, which is like $1.
It is really expensive.
Yeah, so expensive in the States, but you get it here and it's so healthy and it tastes so good. You know, like I have my little spot where I go to. Rio is fortunate. You know, I do have to say the food sucks in Rio. It does suck. If you're coming to Brazil and you want good food, you have to go to Bahia, Salvador, best place. Or if you're coming for food, Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo has really, really good food. And I'm fortunate that I'm a 6-hour bus ride or a 1-hour flight from Sao Paulo. And when I really want to eat some good food, if I don't feel like cooking, I go to Sao Paulo. Yes, I do. I got a lot of friends in Sao Paulo, so I got a place to stay and I go there to eat. The food in Rio sucks, but Rio does have a lot of vegetarian restaurants, organic. There's a place I go to consistently, but I'm forgetting the name because we've been in this quarantine and I haven't been out to eat. Organico, something organico. And then there's another place that I took you to, Nefertiti. Remember that day you were in Rio, I think for a few hours, and you came from the airport, and then you and Kirichiana, we went to that vegetarian restaurant.
Oh gosh, yes, I do remember, but I don't remember the food.
Yeah, so I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name, but there's tons around here, which is really good. Yeah, I just completely forgot all the names, and I know where they are, know how to get to. Oh, Refeitório Orgânico is the one I typically go to because I could walk to. That other one I forget because it's a little further, and I haven't been to in a while. But anyway, so I think that's the thing. There's tons, and when you travel, it's good to kind of ask around. What I do, I typically join different groups, expat groups or different groups via WhatsApp or through Facebook, and then I ask in those groups. And a lot of times those groups are very helpful. So like if you're vegetarian, you're vegan, ask in those groups, they'll tell you. I remember when I went to Argentina, I wanted to get, Argentina, like Brazil, is very meat oriented. And so, you know, I asked, I connected with Black expats in Buenos Aires, like I'm very much into, connections and things like that. And I would ask, where can I get vegetarian? Just because sometimes you want vegetarian food, and now I am more vegetarian. I'm not gonna say I don't eat meat, but it's every once in a while. And during this COVID, I've been predominantly vegan, so that's been good.
Mhm.
So those are important things. Before you travel, I like to plan these things out before I travel. And especially if you have allergies, if you have specific food things that you want to eat, before you travel, go on Facebook. It's great. Facebook, and put in where the country you're going to. Like when I go to Thailand, I look for Thailand expats. When I went to Bali, I put in Bali expats. Brazil, you have Brazil expats, you have gringos in Brazil. Gringo is, we've all heard of gringo. What you are when you don't belong to that, you're not from that country when you're a foreigner. So, so those are good things to look out for. Hello, Moshia. Good night. Welcome. Thank you for coming on. I haven't seen you before, so I think this is your first time. Thank you so much for coming on and saying hello. And I like that you have like an apple on your thing. So you must be a foodie as well. So we're kind of wrapping up. We've been talking a lot about different foods. I don't know. Do you want to give a nice little something? So I love doing these shows with Nefertiti because she's really great at being more organized and doing a nice little summary and coming up with these bullet points. Whereas I'm more, free and kind of like just talk and like whatever. So I know I can count on Nefertiti for the important, real important details. So would you like to give a summary of what we talked about for
Renee,
those who are joining and just to kind of wrap up?
you're, as they say in Brazil, cara de pau.
Cara de pau. She's my perfect other half, right? Like she's my yang to my yin. Okay, so
Okay.
Moisha says she's been on here before, but first time talking in a chat. Oh, thank
Thanks.
you.
Welcome. We've just
Welcome.
been talking about how we love to eat and how is it that we kind of how is it that wherever we are in the world, we can make sure that we engage, that we can be healthy. So there's this side to us that needs to come to a place with curiosity and this like element of digging around, right? So if we're going to a new place, what is it that people eat there? So best place to go is to a market. Who can you go to a market with? And that can tell you about what it is that people eat, how they cook it. Going to restaurants, where can you get references from restaurants? So Renee mentioned these different expats groups, I think are really good. But also when if you're going somewhere for a conference or I don't know, for work, there's definitely locals who can connect you with those things. The second part we talked about is, but what do I do if I'm not sure if I should eat something? I don't know how to make me feel. So I had talked about, well, always ask about what people take when they feel sick. There's always a local natural remedy that's been passed down generations that people swear their life on. And that's something that you can, oh, great, good to know. Where can I find this herb? Or, is it sold in little envelope, the little tea packages that I can just pick up at a store. So it's always good to know, like, what do people do locally whenever they have a tummy ache or whenever they, eat too much or have acid reflux. There's usually like a local response to that. But of course, there's always local pharmacies if you're really, not sure or how well those will interact with your body. Always ask where the local pharmacies are, and you can ask them what's good for, preparing for eating spicy foods or, if I ate too much. So you always kind of want to think about how, what is my body type and do I need to be more prepared to eat these kinds of foods than I would want to be, and really being honest about that. And then I think the third part is when you're presented with new foods, how do you know if it's going to be okay to eat it? I think we talked about, engaging all your senses. What is it? Not only what it looks like, because I know I've eaten things that look funky, but they smell great. And who made it, swears their life on it. sure enough, when I ate it, even though it looked terrible, was really good. So really engaging all your senses. What does something smell like? What does something look like? Are the colors vibrant? The textures, just really engaging all of your senses to open up your instinct, right? And I think that if your instinct is telling you go for it, if your instinct is telling you go easy, listen to it, trust your instinct.
Yeah.
And then I think we talked also about like when you go live somewhere or you're going to be there for a while and you're not going to be eating out all the time, how is it that you can stay healthy and also kind of stay connected to whatever your culinary connections are? And I think
let's expand on that, just because we got a comment that Moesha, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Sorry if I'm not. She says she wants to be more healthy, but eating fresh produce in Barbados is pretty expensive.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that is a common problem, right? Like if you're traveling, sometimes eating healthy and fresh might be more expensive. Other times it might be cheaper,
Renee, I've never been to Barbados. I have no idea what it's like. And I don't know if because it is an island, there is more difficulty just around accessing fresh food. But if it's anything similar to Brazil or Guatemala or Venezuela or these other places I've been to, Latin America, there tends to be local farmers, local growers who have some kind of popular market, farmers market on certain days of the week. So I think it's important to just ask around and see if there's something like that exists, for two reasons. One, you're supporting the growers directly. And two, usually they sell at prices that are way more accessible than what you find in the grocery store. And then, so I think in Barbados that has to exist. I know that it's that has a lot of richness in terms of, diversity of food. I don't know if, it's as abundant as Brazil because it's humongous. But it might be good to ask around and see if there is some kind of farmer's market that happens that's usually outdoor, a little bit cheaper than what you would find in the supermarket. And if you can't, go ahead.
And I was going to say also the other thing is that I think that is good as well is start growing different fruits, vegetables, whatever you can. It's not as hard as you think. And I think once once you start, I've gotten different herbs and started to plant them. And that makes a difference as well. If you're getting them, from your garden, you can eat fresh foods, different produce. So those are just some other ideas too. And like Nefertiti said, just thinking about asking people around, because sometimes we just so in a routine of going to the same places and buying from the same supermarket. So yeah.
And we talked about, if you do get things from a fresher market that's directly from the farm, like, washing it in soap and water or with a few drops of chlorine should be fine. I think there shouldn't be a fear to buying things that are directly from, the land, from the farmers, versus in the supermarket where it's more sterilized. So it gives you this sense that it's cleaner or that it's safer, but that's not always true. And I think too, thinking about like the packaged stuff, so rice and beans, that's kind of the nuts and bolts. I imagine Barbados is similar. See if brown rice is an option. With your beans, sprout them before you cook them. That's the best thing you can do in terms of eating it in a way that's healthy and lighter. So I don't know about you, Renee, how long you leave your beans in water? 12 hours.
Overnight.
12 hours,
overnight.
24 hours. Sometimes you really want to sprout.
And I do want to say, in addition to this, like sometimes, buying healthier produce is more expensive, but in the long run, it's cheaper than if you get sick and you're having to spend money on taking care of your health or different medications. So in the short run, it might seem like it's more expensive, but in the long run, it's actually cheaper.
Great point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, because you're investing in your well-being, right?
Yeah.
The food's
health,
expensive, but how's my body going to feel after I make this for myself? And I think also earlier to Moesha, Renee earlier in the show had talked about the importance of garlic and ginger in your diet. You know, they're both anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and do all kinds of things for your health, but they're also great to savor your food, to flavor your foods. So I think it's good to think about, you know, health is also tasty. So there's garlic, there's ginger, there's also turmeric, there's also, you know, coriander seeds, there's cumin, there's cinnamon, there's, you know, there's all kinds. I think any place you go, I always have so much fun, like learning about the spices, you know, what
and also, if you find that you're like eating, you know, you're not able to eat as healthy as you'd like, think about doing fast. Because when you do the fasting, it gives your body time to release those toxins and those different things that's in your body that's unhealthy. And then that's also cheaper because you're doing drinks, you know, you're not cooking food. So you can think about, you know, maybe doing a day fast if you've never done fasting before, then do a 2-day, then a 3-day, up to a week, you know, but doing it slowly, and where you're just drinking juices, healthy, fresh, organic juices. And there's, you know, you can Google different recipes for fastings, for fast. You know, that's some of the things that I've done here. You know, I've bought the spinach, celery, many different things, and you can make juices. Sometimes I just do like apple, beetroot, and carrot to get all the different fruits, to get different vegetables. So each day of my fast might be different types of juices, you know, so that's something you can do as well. If like you really can't buy all the fresh, healthy produce because it's so expensive, then, you know, think about doing a fast once a month, you know, so that can help you. So she asked another question. What is your take on meat? Do you eat meat? So, yeah, both of us are primarily vegetarian, but for me personally, the only reason why I stopped, because I love meat. I'm not gonna lie, I love meat.
Yeah, I did.
But for me, I noticed I had fibroids, and I read Queen Afua's book, Sacred Woman, and my fibroids were big, and the doctor wanted me to have surgery. And after reading her book, I changed my diet and I stopped eating meat. And within 3 months, the symptoms went away. Like it was really bad, and it got better. So now I am predominantly, I feel like everything, you know, once in a while is okay. So once in a while I will eat meat, like, but generally speaking, I'm more vegetarian than not. And then sometimes, or I would even say pescatarian. Sometimes I'll go and I'll eat fish or shrimp, or crabs or lobster, because I love those things too. But they're also bottom feeders, and so they're not so healthy for you. Like, well, in terms of the shellfish, the shrimp, crabs, and lobster, but fish generally is healthy. So I will, like, if I have a craving and I need to eat something outside of that, then I'll eat the fish. But you know, every once in a while I will do the shrimp or whatever, crab legs, because again, I love it. But that's my take. So it was for health reasons, and I noticed that it made a difference. So because of that difference, I'm predominantly vegetarian or vegan more so, because the dairy also makes fibroids grow. So I cut that out, and I am lactose intolerant. But I have met people who tried to be completely vegetarian and their bodies did not agree with it. And they actually did need to eat meat. So I think you also, in my opinion, you have to listen to your body, and you have to see, you know, if you're thinking about going vegetarian, try it and see how your body responds. There's just some people who have to eat meat. There's also this whole thing of eating to your body constituency, depending on your blood type. And some people's blood type,
things about that. Yeah.
So some people's blood type need meat, other people don't. So, you know, I think there's many different factors to look at before you decide you're going to become vegetarian and not eat meat.
Yeah, I think the main one, though, it has to do with making sure you have enough nutrients, right? The vitamin B12 and B6 comes from meat protein. So, but there's so many things that have that, or that that's put into that, like in addition, to make sure you get that, or whether it's taking a vitamin. But I think, I don't know for you, Renee, but what I've learned, just, you know, I decided to not eat meat last year. So I'm new to this. I've also been a meat eater my whole life. I love it. I know how to prepare it. If you want someone to make a good steak, that's me. You know, like, I don't play around. But came a moment where, not only for health reasons, but also just thinking about the environmental situation, the meat industry's impact on that, it was hard for me to continue to eat meat, knowing what I was conscious of. And so, but what ended up happening was you end up eating way more vegetables, just a
You do.
shitload of vegetables. You just have to eat, there's no meat, so you just eat a lot more vegetables.
And you start to like more, your taste buds start to change. You start to like more of the vegetables.
Yes.
And one of my rule of thumbs to make sure that you're getting all of the nutrients and proteins that you need is a rainbow diet. So you need to make sure you're getting all the different colors. So red, beetroot, orange, carrot, green, spinach, broccoli, because each of them have different types of proteins in it. So that's really important. And if you're not eating meat, also getting your nuts and your seeds in. So those are important things. So if you can see a naturopath or a nutritionist to go on it, so they can talk to you about what's, really good to eat, I recommend that. If they're way too expensive and you can't do that, there's some really great books like Queen Afua, Sacred Woman. There's tons of great books that you can get to kind of help you in this lifestyle to make some different changes. To make sure you're getting everything that you need.
Yes. And you also engage with spices in a different way. I make salads just with cilantro and green onions. Like lettuce, I feel like is a leafy green that doesn't have much nutritional value, but basil, cilantro, dill, all these things have a lot. So I'm like, I'll just make a salad with this.
Right. So thank you so much for commenting. Those are some great points, great questions that you asked. So love that. So I want to thank you guys. Thank you all for coming on and commenting. I know that sometimes people come on and don't comment. Well, we love to have the comments. We love to have you sharing and having this interactive. So connect with us. Connect with I'll let Nefertiti give her stuff. But if you want to connect with me. I got tons of ways to connect with. Instagram, I have Prandata Prim at _Tantra. I also have Sacred Soul Retreat on Instagram. On Twitter, you can reach me on Twitter or Facebook at Renee Adolph. And then Patreon, Prandata Prim. Also, we have our Patreon for Red Lipstick Talk, which is Patreon Red Lipstick Talk. That's scrolling underneath there. And my website for any more information or questions is Prandata Prim. So easy ways to find me, either Prandata Prim or Renee Adolph. So one of those two ways you're going to find me. So
fantastic. So I keep it simple. So if you look at my name, so if Renee removes the banner, please.
Yes.
So Nefertiti Charlene right there. That's my Instagram and my Facebook. Website's not up yet, working on it, but those are the main ways to follow me. The work that I do, aside from like cooking great food and eating and enjoying that. I'm a cultural worker. I'm a performance artist. I'm a producer, ran a cultural space, percussion, sing, dance, teach classes. So if anyone is interested in learning more, how to engage with their body, feel good, health-wise, but also engage culturally, teach you some things from Brazil. That's the work I've been doing for the last 8 years. So go ahead and reach out to me via Facebook or Instagram. And for everybody watching, every Saturday, Renee and I also hold a wonderful space that's safe and that's really warm and welcoming. It's a meditation and movement practice space for folks of color. So we hold this every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Brazil time. It's free. We do this because we feel like at this moment, I feel like the pandemic, Renee, has brought up so many psychological issues we have been storing for years. And a lot of things are coming up and we don't have to kind of work through that alone. So this is a way that we've offered this collective space out of, just wanting to be generous and knowing that we need that right now as women of color, especially. So join us, we meditate, we do some movement work, light movement work, and feel good after. So feel free to join. That's every Saturday.
Yes. I'm just typing it up so I can put it on here. So good. So you
Yes.
can find that information on, I guess, both of our pages. So if you go to either Nefertiti's page, Instagram, or mine, we have flyers up. We'll go ahead and post flyers up today so you can get the Zoom ID, because I don't have it right here on me. But it's on our flyers, the Zoom ID, so you can just go right in. And we'll be sure to post our flyers on our Instagram tonight. That way you can get the
Yes.
Zoom ID. And we'll see you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Brazil time, and 4 p.m. Pacific time. All right. So thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks,
Thank you for
guys.
watching. And have
Ooh,
a wonderful weekend.
wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye. Well.
Bye.